When the deployment was done to production, we started to have some issues.
It sucks the most when staging is fine and then something goes wrong in production.
The first symptom is that data was appearing incorrectly, and I think that was our mistake.
Let's take one step back.
Don't assume that everything is right. They were not considering.
Let's start with a bit of context. Can you tell us what part of the organization you were working on and what part of system was it?
I was part of app support team at the time, working with business-to-business clients, and it was a situation where we did a deployment on a test production, but when the deployment was done to production, we started to have some issues.
This is probably the worst. It sucks the most when staging is fine, pre-production environment, and then something goes wrong in production. You start questioning so many things.
Absolutely.
What was the first clue or symptom that you noticed?
The first symptom is that data was appearing incorrectly. It was a missing information, first of all, and then also some fields were not populating. So we were concerned about the whole picture of production deployment that was done to enable that feature.
Some fields were missing on, I assume that's user interface, right?
Yeah, that was.
Okay, so there were fields missing on the user interface, some data was appearing incorrectly. Did you have a initial hunch on what could have been the root cause?
I would say we first looked at the code base, but we quickly realized that everything was implemented perfectly on that side.
Can you tell us about exact steps in your troubleshooting journey from when you learned about the problem to coming up with a theory and testing each theory about the root cause?
We would gather all of the teams that worked on the project, that knew, that had a background on it. But at the same time, from my own perspective, I was summarizing everything what we've done so far, and we're quickly updating the customer as well, so they can stay on the same page. We were sharing details, we were sharing what the steps we were performing.
I see. So it seems like some of the actions you took, they were coming from the team that developed the feature.
Yep.
And what kind of actions were those? Were you checking logs, metrics? What were those first steps of understanding the nature of the problem?
Logs and inspecting the code base are two pieces that we definitely considered the most important at the time. And I think that was our mistake.
Let's take one step back to the point where you understood that maybe some code need to be checked. Did you check the code personally? I'm just wondering, do support engineers have or had access to the code at the company you worked for at that time?
At that time, we did have access to the code. However, I think it was just comparing the dev to prod and seeing what was different.
The image version, right?
But I think from support perspective, if you see some difference and if you see that somebody committed a change, you're gonna reach out to the developer and ask why and when it was committed. I mean, you can see when, but if there wouldn't be any comments on it, and if there will be the comments, you can also mention that to see what was done at the time and what was the purpose.
Were there any other theories outside of configuration and bad code that you kind of tried to approach, but it ended up being a dead end?
I would say getting information from a customer. However, there was so little available since that feature was just released to prod. For some other issues, you can definitely ask for a general behavior on when the issue started, when the issue was first observed. What was the action that led to replication? Then, of course, you can also replicate locally. That's the most important step, I think, in support. If you're able to replicate, then you have all the steps available, then you can escalate to development. But I think if you don't able to replicate, I think gathering the logs, every information available is what's most important for escalation.
Let's talk about the breakthrough. Did you take any other steps before you arrived to the root cause?
It was consulting with every engineer available at the time, and they had suggestions that we checked. However, that was a dead end. They were not considering configuration. We assumed that configuration was right. However, double checking that, it's what made difference. You gotta inspect every conf to see, because even if the profile, let's say I have a staging profile, I have a production profile, all the settings are the same, should be, but when you go and check, there might be some changes being done by other people. There are no kind of audit tracking record on some of them, so you wouldn't be noticed, or there are no alerts being made. So
Okay. If this config nightmare sounds familiar, hit the like button and subscribe for more debugging stories like this. Also, share your worst production deployment stories in the comments below. It creates discussions and helps others level up. So understanding the main takeaways, checking configuration is important. It's a big factor for many sites. Many sites have dozens or hundreds of feature flags that allow them to operate in different performance capacities and provide like different features to different customers. But I'm just curious, like oftentimes the organizations kind of trying to prevent things from ever happening. Did any of the teams or like any of the managers take any steps to prevent this from happening?
after that, we built a documentation on the feature deployments that were being done to the product. Also, root cause analysis, as always, providing the clear steps on what was done and what was the issue.
Yeah, honestly, like the lack of properly set up process for some operations is the issue I see in software development lifecycle every now and then. I feel like it's definitely an aspect of software development that's often overlooked.
Okay.
Like as a developer, you have your own process. As QA, you have your own process. But then, like when we're talking about process that combines everyone's effort to put it in front of the customer, I think that's where many organizations are lacking.
I think the audit and the like traces of like changes should be also documented properly.
Yeah.
Like some people overlook that, and that eventually leads to confusion, like in the case of like seeing what was done before.
Okay. And just one final question. Again, I think we kind of covered like the whole context, the debugging steps, the root cause analysis. Talking about our younger peers, if you could give one advice to your colleagues, maybe support engineer interns or junior engineers, what would that one advice be about debugging specifically?
Don't assume that everything is right. Always triple check, because biggest things that I caught in my career were the one that like usually overlooked, and just assume that they're being set up right. There's so many possibilities of something to go wrong, so always document everything, I think. And if you start to debug something, always gather as much information as you can so it can be available for everyone.
I've heard a couple of advices there. Thank you so much, Ben. We love your story, and hopefully it's going to help your younger peers and anyone else to excel in their debugging. Thanks, man.
Thank you.